Hi Founder fans, Jason here, and today's founder is William Alexander, or as he liked to be called, Lord Stirling. And Lord Stirling was the only American revolutionary who had a claim to nobility. So the story goes that, well, William Alexander's grandfather was a Scottish nobleman, an Earl of Stirling. His son, or William's father, was a Jacobin, which was, not to get too into it, but a group that was rebelling against what was going on in Great Britain at the time, and he fled to New York, where he already owned a great deal of land. And the Alexanders did very well there, and Lord Stirling, William Alexander, was born in New York, and he grew up, and when his father passed away, Alexander, well, he tried to claim this title of nobility that his father had essentially ignored and let fall by the wayside. He hired lawyers over in Scotland, and Scotland actually agreed with him and said, yes, you are Lord Stirling. So William Alexander went one step further and tried to get London and Great Britain at large to acknowledge his situation. And while Parliament did look into his claim, they essentially said, well, no, your father ran away, and we're not going to give you this title. Now, this did not make William Alexander happy. However, he did continue to call himself Lord Stirling, and he did have great wealth. He ended up moving to New Jersey and establishing a manor that had one of the first successful wineries in the United States at it. Furthermore, he lived lavishly as if he was a lord and had other people call him Lord Stirling. Now, when the revolution breaks out, this man, who was already a little bit upset at Parliament for other reasons that most other patriots were not upset about, he went on to join the cause, and he became first a brigadier general and eventually would be a major general in the Continental Army. He served throughout the war, and most notably at the Battle of Long Island, where he held off the British and Hessian soldiers long enough so that the rest of the Americans can retreat. And when these great forces came to him, as the story goes, he decided to run into the British lines so he could break through the British and get to the the Hessian soldiers, the mercenaries that were hired by Great Britain. He ran through the British to get to them so that he could be taken as a prisoner by the Germans and not by the British. Now, he did end up in British custody because the Germans were working for the British, of course. Furthermore, he was fortunate to be exchanged very quickly. There was another high-ranking British officer who had been taken recently, and they were quickly exchanged. And that's where he earned his promotion to Major General, because George Washington from the other hillside watched William Alexander do this, or again, as he liked to be called, Lord Stirling. Now, Stirling had the trust of George Washington, so much so that when Washington would leave to go to Congress, at least one occasion, he would leave the army to go to Philadelphia and speak to Congress. He would leave the army in the care of William Alexander. And furthermore, when George Washington went south to Yorktown with most of the main army, he put William Alexander in charge of the northern department. He had control of what used to be the main army, and his responsibility was to distract the British, who were still running things out of New York City. And he did this successfully, so Washington could go south with the rest of the army and essentially win the war. Unfortunately for Lord Stirling, he ends up dying just before the official ratification of peace treaty. This seems to be a combination of just general poor health and a penchant for strong liquors, and he does pass away before he sees the United States become a reality. But he spent the last few years of his career fighting for the American Revolution. Now, I do want to give a quick shout out to my patriots on Patreon who help support this channel and make it possible. If you'd like to support this channel, please check out my Patreon link below. I have a wide variety of things, extra content I put out there, not just about the American Revolution, but about the channel itself. And there's several other tiers of support that you can give and rewards for doing so. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll be back with another founder tomorrow.